I'm always a lowest hole in the bucket kind of guy. And I refer to that as designing properties all the time, even private land properties where you're building, you're spending a lot of money, where you plug those lowest holes first. Which a lot of times on private land is food. If you don't have the quality food, you won't have a deer herd. Browse, chestnuts, acorns, apples is not, as far as private land goes, it's not quality food that you can build a deer herd off of. And so you have to plug that lowest hole. Often in, if forms a habitat. Clients hire us to come out and design their habitat when really we're spending a large portion of our time designing their hunt. Because if you don't relate the habitat improvements to how you should hunt the land like a predator, then your habitat improvements are a waste. They truly are. Because if you're hunting, you're spooking deer so that they're coming in after dark, then you're not allowed to build a herd. You can't build a herd if it's after dark all the time, the deer are coming in. But you can't build a herd, you can't build a great hunt, you can't work on sex ratios, populations, you can't work on populations in balance or raise populations if you only get to see the deer after dark. So all your dollars that you spend are at a waste. If deer are nocturnal on your land, it doesn't matter what you do, you're not improving the health of the herd that much that you can afford to bump them all somewhere else during the daylight. Because ultimately, if that deer is dead, that buck is dead, he doesn't grow, doesn't matter how healthy he is. So you can't build a herd unless they're there during the daylight. You also can't build a herd unless they're there at the right time of the year. Number one here, we're building a part-time deer herd. Unless you have literally thousands of acres, you are not building and helping a deer herd for the entire year. In fact, when you look at bucks alone, bucks need completely different type of habitat during the summer than they do during the fall and winter. They need high overstory, shade. They need open cover that they're not going to smash their velvet into as they're walking through the habitat during the summer. They need summer food. They can tolerate open hardwoods during the summer months, but not during the fall and winter months because they don't have enough cover. So the amount of side cover they need, the amount of browse they need during the daylight, and where they choose to feed. And mature bucks, the oldest bucks in the neighborhood, will travel the furthest out of every deer to look for that best food. It's completely different from where they're at during the summer and the necessities they need for the fall. Just two completely different locations. In fact, with most bucks, on average, it's about 1.5 miles off. Unfortunately, if you're the one that's stockpiling bucks during the summertime, there's about a 90 to 95% chance you are not the one that gets to look at them the majority of the fall or have the best opportunity to hunt them or include them in your herd makeup as far as how you're trying to build the herd. If those bucks are coming in during the middle of the night, they don't count. Let me repeat that. You're not doing a good job if they're only coming in during the middle of the night. Now, if they're in and around shooting hours, even an hour after dark, that shows they're bedding close, that shows you have influence on them. But if they're coming in at midnight, 2, 3, 4, your habitat improvements aren't doing anything except giving them a bite to eat after they've already been somewhere else that matters most to them, because daylight is where it matters the most. And when it comes to when they should be on your property, there's specific times that matter and don't matter. You really need to slant your efforts towards the fall and winter. And the problem is, number two, it feels good. It feels good to tell people, even non-hunters. Imagine non-hunters, not that they're anti-hunters, but just people, hey, I take care of the deer all year. I'm a hunter. I'm a conservationist. I take care of the deer all year. Folks, you're probably wasting resources of time and money, and because you're spending so much time taking deer, quote, and I big quotes, take care of deer in April, May, June, July, August, even portions of September, then you are wasting resources that could have been more allocated effectively and efficiently towards taking care of those deer during the fall and winter months when they actually need your help. They don't need your help during the summer, except for the arid southwest portions of those types of areas. So you have to be very wary and very cautious about spending your resources of time and money at a time when the deer don't even need your help. I know it feels good. It feels good to write articles about it. It feels good to make videos about it. But if you actually are in the know, and that's what matters most, if you actually care about the resources, you care about the deer herd, you care about being an actual herd influencer, then what you do in April, May, June, July, August, early September really doesn't matter. And that's the cold, hard truth. Think about it. Local habitat might be a 10 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 during the summer months. Deer have everything they need and 5 times more of it than they need. And they don't even have hunting pressure to deal with. So then you go in and you offer all this summer quality habitat at a time when the local habitat's at its best, and you neglect times in the local habitats a 2 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10. That's the time where you can make a difference. just offering those feel-good times. People talk about, well, they're going to take care of the deer all year. That just shows they don't know how to actually take care of a deer herd, because you can't take care of them all year unless you have thousands of acres property. Number 3, there is literally a timeline of truth that I want to talk about here. Timeline of truth, meaning when it actually matters for building. And there's a couple different reasons it matters. You want to build. That means you build a herd, you build your hunt, and you're producing a quality herd, you're producing a quality hunt, and you're building an investment. And I'll give you an example. This property here that we purchased in Minnesota, the previous landowner did a great job at offering beans and putting a lot of deer here during the summer. 20 out of 25 pictures of the real estate listing were in velvet, the bucks. And you look at it, and so I start thinking, okay, what can I do? What is he doing right now that creates a situation where more deer are on the land during the summer months than when it matters during the fall and winter? So we looked, a couple stands, driving ATVs, excess hunting during December after the landowner was done hunting, no screening for access, food that's not lasting past October 1st because it was just all 5 acres of beans, no cuttings in the woods for improving bedding area. So there's a lot that added up to put deer on the property we bought this year, the 67 acres, a year later. Those hunters on that 67 acres counted on deer running from this land to that land when people accessed, when people hunted, because just the hunting style, where the food was, everything wasn't slanted towards a fall winter herd. So as far as investment goes, if you're doing it right, you're going to get a lot of daytime pictures of big bucks, or at least the big bucks relative for your area. And I talk about 5-year-olds a lot because that's kind of what we're after here in Wisconsin and Minnesota. Some people are after 6-year-olds, maybe even 7-year-olds in their area. And that would be more like Iowa, Kansas, some of those more fantasy land states I talk about. I had some the other day, they brought to my attention, down in Kansas, someone was talking about putting a water hole out. Well, you don't need to put a water hole and dig it in like Sturgis does, because the deer come to it. Look at all these deer coming in with the tank above the ground. Well, that's in a fantasy land state. That's the difference between some of these states where we have to bury them up here so we don't spook deer. But when you only have 25,000 bow hunters in a state like Kansas, or 65,000 in a state like Iowa, it's a lot easier to not spook deer because they're not used to that human intrusion. Certain things that would bother them here, like a square box trail camera or a big box blind out in the open, don't spook them in those kind of areas. So investment-wise, I want to show pictures, if I'm going to sell this land, of deer actually here during the fall. That's what's actually going to attract customers or buyers. And so you're looking at, what can I do on the land that actually makes a difference, not only for my herd, for my hunt, but the investment of time and money that I'm actually putting into the land in the first place. June, July, all the way through May the following year. Where you make a difference is right here from October to March. October, weeds are dying, local habitat forage is dying, and bucks are shifting. They're shifting from their summer range to their fall. They want to have fall range. There's not a lot of fall range. That's why it's so easy to collect a lot of bucks in the neighborhood, because most people don't have quality fall habitat, whether it's fall food plots, fall cover. And that's why it's easier to find it on public land. Public land bucks can be anywhere during the summertime. Just because you found a great public land bedding area, it's likely that buck, for the same reasons I'm talking about on private land, won't be there during the fall. So everything has to be slanted towards fall. There's not a lot of great fall cover, fall food on public land, let alone private land. The cool thing is on private land, you can build it. The cool thing is on public land, you just have to go find it. A lot less work, just hiking work. But bottom line is, October to March, that's where you can make a difference. In October, things start dying, drying, deer are moving, bucks are moving towards their fall habitat. And then you get into the end of deer season, whether that's January, December in your area. And from that point on, deer don't have a lot of food. They don't have a lot of cover. So if you really want to help them in their health, give them a lot of food right here. Around that October frame, give them a lot of food right here. Right here, we rely on rye, wheat, because it's the only thing green standing at that time in most of these northern states. Oats are dead. They're brown, so they don't offer anything in the spring. There's a lot of wheat and rye fields that collect a lot of deer before actual snow melt and spring green up, because there's nothing else green in the woods but wheat and rye at that time of the year. So it can offer a pretty, again, it might be a 5 out of 10 as far as food, or a 4 out of 10. But when the local habitat's a 0 or a 1, that 5 really sticks out. That's why alfalfa at a 10 out of 10 quality, or soybeans during the summertime, let's say it's 10 out of 10. If the local habitat's a 9 out of 10, you're only offering a difference of 1, maybe even none in most areas with ag land. So you're really not changing anything in the health of the herd or anything at all. But you can make a difference during the winter, and you certainly can make a difference during this time right here. Start of the season to end of the season, right here. 3 to 4 months. That's it. It's called a part-time herd. That's where you slant your efforts. For one, it helps your hunt. Obviously, it's your hunting season. But two, if you actually care about creating quality herd, that's where you'll slant your efforts for. That's where you'll put your resources in for, because you can protect bucks, you can advance them in the next age class, you can improve sex ratios, you can control populations. If your population is high, you can shoot them. If it's too low, you can add more if you're an actual herd influencer and attracting them during the daylight. So whether you care about the health of the herd, the health of your hunt, or even an investment, this is the time you do it, right here. And then a little bit left over in the winter months. You know, I was up in the UP of Michigan, and the deer would leave typically for about an average of sometimes 4.5 months, sometimes 3 months per year. They were gone to the deer yards. Imagine those deer getting a bunch of food before they left and a bunch of food as soon as they got back. So they're going into the winter with more energy reserves in their tank, and they're exiting the winter with immediate food for winter recovery, post-winter recovery. That's where you make a difference. You know, sometimes when in the deer yards, it really didn't matter. Not much you're going to do down there to improve the health of the herd, unless you improve the quality of the habitat and browse within the deer yard, which some places do, largely on public land, commercial forestry areas. But if you have a great herd in April, don't pat yourself on the back. Same with May, June, July, August, September. In fact, if you're spending a lot of resources to get those deer, you're probably wasting resources that could have been used when it really matters the most. Are you effectively covering the lowest hole in the bucket of deer herd management, hunting management, and even in your investment in your land by making sure that you're looking at the right time of the year and certainly the right time of the day? Obviously, again, if deer are coming in the middle of the night, you're not doing anything. I'd like to say you are, but you're not improving the health of the herd because they're somewhere else during the daylight. That means they've been exposed to hunting pressure. And if you care about that herd structure where you have balanced populations, adequate sex ratios, adequate buck age structure, then that only happens during the hunting season. Obviously in June, July, people aren't shooting deer, and you're not able to work on herd makeup and the biological necessities of quality herd. If you want venison, obviously that takes place in the fall. A lot of people say, well, I just want does. Well, you can skip to Whitetail Habitat Solutions basic 101 classes. You know, these are for the lowest hole in the bucket is a mature buck. Does, fawns, you can get them on any property, even doing the wrong things. The trick is getting an actual property that has those older buck age. And those older bucks, you know, again, I talk about 5-year-olds. That could be 3-year-old in your area, 2-year-old. I've been on properties in Michigan before I came that for 7 years, they hadn't seen a buck of any kind with antlers during the daylight. That's how bad some people have it. So someone down in Kansas will say, you don't need to do it this way. Well, they don't need it down there. But you certainly need to do it in Indiana. And then when you get up to portions of Michigan, you need to do it even more. So it's all relative to the area, but pay very strict attention to when you're actually attracting deer. Make sure you're doing it during the daylight, and make sure you're doing it during, if you lowest hole in the bucket is October, November, December, and then you have that winter carryover right here too, which a lot of times if you have those resources to extend those months where you can spend more money, spend more time, and cover those deer throughout the winter, you certainly should do so, and I recommend doing so because that's actually when you can make a difference, not the rest of the year. Are you managing a part-time herd? Are you managing a quality herd, quality hunt? Because if you are, it's incredible, it's fun, it's enjoyable. Boy, there's a lot of wasted resources of time, energy, and money out there that are spent every single season, and I hope you're not the one. That's why we offer these videos, when really a lot of these boil down to creating a part-time herd, a quality herd that you can actually hunt and make a difference and actually be a true herd influencer during the hunting season. A lot of people that spend a lot of money think they are, but be those that are actually true herd influencers this fall. And I want to hear about it in the comments below, because when you do, it is a lot of fun, because most people are not doing it in the neighborhood. I want you to be the one that is. Folks, I want to make sure you check out my web class video series, whether it's how to design your food plot program or how to design your property in general. And we have a new one coming out that'll be how to hunt the rut. But these bucks back here are a testament. Some of these bucks go back to 93. They're even in different states I urge you to check out those web classes that you can help yourself, help your land, help your hunt. The link is in the description. And also for those that have tried them out, I encourage you to offer some feedback in the comments below. Thank you.